within the reports, there's been some recommendations to move away from the term BAME, from the aspect of the fact that it is a generalisation. It's something that covers a lot of groups of people, when actually there are very different outcomes. There's different specific ethnic groups included within that. Do you agree with the recommendation that we move away from using that term so that we can focus a bit more on specific groups as opposed to one general term?
So, again, I'm going to be blatantly honest here. Prior to about 5-10 years ago, I didn't even know what the term BAME was. And when I speak to some of our junior doctors from ethnic minorities, they'll say, well, what's BAME? Who's BAME? Why am I BAME? So BAME is Black and Asian minority ethnic. It then changed to Black and minority ethnic. So a lacuna suddenly occurred. A schism suddenly appeared from nowhere. We then ended up having this hierarchy of nomenclature. So from my perspective, and I've been an advocate of this and I've campaigned for this, I do not agree with anybody being a label. So my children, for example, will never, point, say, somebody at a different end of the room. We're not going to talk to, describe them by their skin color. Because why should we? Or, why should we be described by our ethnic, our ethnic background? We're all individuals. I'm very much against using labels. I think labels are not helpful. What labels does is tries to put every single person who's non-Caucasian into the same group. Now, you cannot tell me that somebody from the African subcontinent is the same as somebody from the Asian subcontinent, somebody from the American subcontinent, somebody from the Australian subcontinent. But if you look at the onus data, which is what trusts use to look at ethnic minorities, white basically encompasses everybody. So all of a sudden, anybody that's white from South Africa, Australia, America, Europe, it's suddenly the same. It's nonsense. There are greater differences, amongst individuals. A bit like gender, there are great differences amongst individuals than there are actually between male and female gender. So we desperately do need to move away from labels. Now, I have used quite a number of times the word ethnic minorities in this conversation, and I continue to use it. I do not like the term BAME. And when it comes to ethnic minorities, again, it is an all-encompassing term. But we also need to be mindful that you cannot treat everybody necessarily the same, because everybody has different experiences. So, and I keep saying, harping on about this, which is a first-generation member of staff will have a different experience to a second-generation member of staff. For example, coming back to the start when I was talking about my mother and her bad experience that she had, whereas I grew up in this country. So I knew how the game was going to be played. I was savvy. I knew what courses to do. Whereas an international medical graduate, for example, won't necessarily know the right courses to go on or what to write on an application. So, is success based on your ability to be familiar? Yes, it absolutely is. And part of the things that I, go on about when it comes to trying to address and help people is you hold sessions, you teach people, right, this is the best way to answer a question in an interview. This is the best way to answer or to phrase your personal statement in your application. Or these are the appropriate courses for you to go on in order for you to then apply for that next job. And what we do know is people who are trained or people who are brought up or live in this country is that we know that. Because this is the way we're brought up, or you've got good mentors who can help you. So part of it's also having mentors who can help people from first generation or subsequent in order to be able to be savvy and to be able to progress. So I realise I've gone completely off path there when it comes to the description of minorities. But I'm just trying to give an example of how that terminology can be translated, but how it's also unhelpful at the same time.
No, not at all. It definitely makes sense, and like you say, it's something that what you've explained there is a way in the fact of why it doesn't work to group people together, because there are very different experiences depending on, like you say, whether first generation or second generation, and whether you've grown up in this country. Like you say, you know exactly what needs to be written on an application, and that's something that can be applied to people, and it's not something that should be missed. They should be able to access that kind of mentorship to be able to get that information.